Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir? I was about to say you were out at Cowboys practice. How you doing?
I'm just freshly showered, just ready to go. I just got home literally 25 minutes ago. I got the goods. Let's talk about it.
Yes, so the Cowboys had their final practice before the pads come on Tuesday. We're going to discuss all the interesting notes. But, Landon, it seems like the biggest takeaway from Tuesday was the defense dominated, correct?
It's hard not to look at it. It's hard to look at it any other way, frankly. I mean, just, kind of with the results. I mean, the offense definitely got their shots. I think, Jarwin had a pretty nice day. He had two pretty big catches, including a touchdown. We're going to talk about him later. We'll save him. We'll talk about him, sure. So, but outside of that, in a way that they haven't in a long time, this defense continues to get their hands on footballs. This defense continues to affect what's a good offense. Like even without Amari Cooper, the offense is looking good. It's just that the defense is looking competent and in position. And the exciting thing to me is that, Marcus, it's not just like one or two players in the defensive backfield. It seemingly is a handful of guys that are making plays. I mean, maybe there's doing well or just being in coverage, and then starting to show up and take that next step and actually get their hands on footballs and make plays as well, which is ultimately exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like Trevon Diggs has been pretty good throughout the entire training camp, right? I mean, he's been the one consistent, but it's guys like Damontae Casey who had a big day on Tuesday. That's starting to get people excited. Let's talk about Casey, Landon, because I believe it was on our Tuesday show. We were talking about how maybe the Cowboys brought in Malik Hooker because they didn't love what they saw from Casey early in practice. I don't know if this practice shut everybody up, but it does seem like this is his best practice by far so far. What have you seen from Casey, not only just today, but over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big reason that we're talking about him is the pick six that he had to kind of end that situational 11-on-11 that they were doing against first team reps. It looked like it was cover 3 buzz. I think Ted I'm gonna forget his name on Twitter, but Raiders writer who's really good. Anyways, he pointed Ted Wynn. Thank you, Ted Wynn. He pointed out that it was cover 3 buzz, and I think he was right, because you see the free safety kind of come down and trade spots with the linebacker in the cover 3 spot, and it was just very sly by Kazee to kind of come to that rotation late, to understand the concept of what was happening in front of him, and that the slant was going to be coming, and to know that if he just hurried down to get down into his spot, then all Dak would have done is look another way and not throwing the ball. By delaying it a little bit and baiting Dak, he gave Dak a window. Dak threw the football, and then he immediately just stepped right in front. It was very smooth, and just stepped right in front, took the ball, and was gone up the sideline.
Well, that's what he's always been good at, right? Like, if you want to match him up against tight ends, I think you can get a little bit exposed that way. He's not the best tackler in the world because he's only, sub 180 pounds. But what he does at a high level is create those type of plays. And it's encouraging that we're at least seeing him do that in camp, because it's been a long time since the Cowboys have had a playmaker like that in their secondary.
Yeah, and, earlier in the practice, we saw him get taken out of outside the formation to cover. I can't remember who the actual wide receiver was. Maybe it was Gallup, one-on-one, just in one of those situations where just because the defense is the way it's called and the way that the motion happens, he got singled up with the wide receiver and was able to hold his own there too. So I think there is certainly good things and cleared, things that he can't do, just like a lot of different players in the NFL, like most players in the NFL. I think what we're seeing is some of the positives start to shine through a little bit more. For a guy that, to his credit, he's coming off an Achilles injury. He's just now getting back into knocking the rust off of playing 11-on-11 football, because that's not something you do when you're you're trying to heal from an Achilles injury. So he's working his way back in. I think this play, it's a flashy play, but I think the thing that's really exciting about it is it shows a level of veteran maturity and kind of slyness, to kind of to do pull off what he did in that kind of defense. And I think that's the kind of thing that the Cowboys have needed at the safety position for a long time, with a lot of kind of inexperience or just kind of average play at the position. Now you've got a guy, even if he isn't the guy that gets 7 interceptions or 10 interceptions or whatever it has been the last few years, he's a guy who can at least know what he's doing out there and be good enough to maybe help disguise what he's doing pre-snap, which has been a problem with the Cowboys in the past.
Do you think it's a coincidence that he had his best practice of the day after the Cowboys signed Malik Hooker, and he's on the sideline watching?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Hooker was out there and in a jersey. So maybe it was looking over to the sideline and seeing Hooker over there, and maybe it was that they they thought the best Kazee that they ever had was the workout that they got originally, because Hooker was on the other field waiting for his workout. Now they're like, well, maybe we should bring him in. They'll play fantastic. I think it probably is coincidence, but it certainly is a funny coincidence. Let's say that.
We're going to talk more about Tuesday's practice in just a second, but before we do that, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all of the action on BetOnline. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Landon. So a lot of people have been asking me to ask you about some of these guys that have been at practice. You've been there 3 days now. But before we do that, I want to is there anybody else that stood out in Tuesday's practice that you wanted to mention?
I got to say one thing just to kind of peek behind the curtain. They moved the practice to the opposite field, which made it a lot more difficult for everyone in the stands that had like good angles to see. So it was a little bit more difficult to kind of see.
Because they knew you were coming to camp.
I mean, they saw my videos and they're like, it was a little bit harder to see the offensive and defensive lines because of that. It's because everything was very close together. So, but I did notice, I paid attention. I'm trying to pay more and more attention to Kelvin Joseph when he's on the field, and Nahshon Wright when they're out there. And to me, Joseph just looks so incredibly natural playing the position.
He's so smooth.
Yeah, and his movement work is absolutely top notch already. I mean, he's just the way he's able. I mean, and I've seen it now both in press and in off coverage. He's just incredibly comfortable in his pedal. He's incredibly comfortable flipping his hips and running. He's not going to get run past. He's good at staying in phase, and he's really natural at finding the football in the air. I mean, we haven't seen any interceptions yet, but we've seen some pass deflections, and we've seen him, stay with guys as they've tried to send him deep. They've tried to test him deep with Noah Brown like 3 or 4 times, and they just need to stop. Because he's not taking the bait. I've seen him. Who was it? I think it was Turner made a double move on him, and the way he was able to stay low and just kind of barely stop his momentum before he flipped his hip. Mm-hmm. He didn't bite. He didn't take the cheese at all, and just kind of flipped his hip and stayed with him the whole time. It's kind of impressive stuff, even though it's you need to see him get more reps against the ones. I'd love to see him go against Cooper when Cooper gets back. I'd love to see more reps against Gallup. I'm excited by what I see, but it's still early days. Obviously, pads are going to make a difference.
A couple of things. So I think patience is kind of the best word that describes Kelvin Joseph, right? Like he's just patient, right?
I'm sorry, real quick, just along those lines, patience.
Sure.
There was one point when he had a jam and he looked jammed. I guess I've seen veterans do this before.
Yeah.
But he had his eyes on the quarterback because it was zone, and he was able to get his target, like Disjar, I think it was number 14, who's the guy that from Mississippi State, with a very interesting name. Anyways, he gets his hands on him, and he just completely knocks him off balance, and then just sinks right into his pedal in one kind of smooth motion while keeping eyes on the quarterback. I mean, he's just very impressive, and because he can be patient because he trusts his feet so much, you know.
I really like Kelvin Joseph. I think he's going to be really good. I just think he's one of those natural football players. Like, he doesn't need a lot of reps. He just can go out there and he'll cover your number one receiver. And there's going to be mistakes he has, and he probably needs to be more mature off the field too, and be more reliable. But he's just a really, really good football player. I had a comp for him that I was going to use a little bit. It's not a great comp in terms of size, but he's just got a little bit of Pac-Man Jones to his game where he just put him on the field.
Okay.
He's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we've talked about it yesterday with Malik Hooker. We talked about with Randy Gregory. There are some guys who have athletic.
They're just
profiles.
born to play.
It feels like they're born to play their position, right? Like it's just like and he has like that stuff that I'm talking about is so natural to him, and it's stuff. Some of that stuff we could never get our previous quarterbacks to do. We could never get our
Awuzie could never do that after 4 years.
He could never
starting a bunch of games.
He could never turn around from having his back to the football and find the ball in the air.
Nope.
He just couldn't do it. And Joseph can do that from day one. So I'm excited. I'm excited about him. And excited to see, I want to see him get more reps. I want to see him get more reps against tougher competition.
So I wanted to stay on the cornerbacks really quickly because I saw in team drills, Anthony Brown was actually the other opposite outside corner. And then Maurice Kennedy was playing in the slot. That's because I believe Jordan Lewis, I don't know if he was out because of a veteran day or they were just resting him, but it seems like he nothing serious, correct?
Yeah, see, actually, that's something I wanted to check with you because that's kind of tough. I saw him on the cords today.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if he tweaked something or
that's what I'm wondering too.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the cords really quickly because I saw Amari Cooper was working on the cords today. Was DeMarcus Lawrence on the cords?
Actually, DeMarcus Lawrence and Tristan Hill were both out there doing some work. Tristan was on the cords for a little bit, and then he was pushing a sled, though he could have just been pushing a sled for fun. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, it was just out there. I think he was
we say this every year, right? Like if you're working in the cords, it typically means you're either just trying to rehab a very minor injury or you're close to coming back from a big one, right? So
yeah.
It doesn't sound – I mean, we would have heard something by now if the team was concerned about Jordan Lewis. My guess is he tweaks something and he'll be ready to go. Do they practice again tomorrow, right, on Wednesday?
Yep, Wednesday and Thursday. And Thursday is pads. And there's some confusion, I think. Tomorrow might be pads as well.
I know Wednesday is pads. Yep. So
Wednesday. I think Wednesday and Thursday is pads. So, I did see Jordan Lewis on the cords, but I wasn't sure because sometimes players like Zeke will be on the cords every morning, regardless. Like he just likes to warm up that way. So it's kind of hard sometimes to tell if they're just until they get into practice. Now, if you're on the cords at practice, that usually means you're recovering or you hurt something and you're trying to get back. So but going back to what you said, Canada has been. I mean, he got a hand on a pass today, but he's a guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, an interception. Yeah, but he's a guy that I haven't mentioned previously when we've talked because there's just so much to mention. But he had shown up a couple times previously too. So this is not just like a one-off thing for him. I think when I've seen him in there, I've noticed him a couple different times. So that could be something there, which is exciting.
Well, Maurice Kennedy is really interesting. We'll get to Anthony Brown in just a second. But
yes, we do need to talk about that too. Yeah.
So we saw most of these guys that opted out of the 2020 season for COVID, a lot of these guys got cut unless you were a huge player like a Nate Solder or a Dante Hightower. A lot of those guys got cut. Maurice Kennedy is one of the few that actually stuck around. So it tells me that the Cowboys believe he's got a pretty good chance to make this roster and compete. And we talked about this on our defensive back show, right, Landon? If Jordan Lewis is going to play a hybrid role and Anthony Brown's going to play more on the outside, there might be a job open for Maurice Kennedy. And it sounds like he's playing pretty well in practice.
Yeah, he is. And, I think we talked about it that, Candidate kind of didn't play a lot of defensive football early in his career. So he didn't start getting experience there until just recently with the Jets and a little bit at the end with Baltimore. But he had injury issues and it kind of kept him off the field. And most of the time when he was playing, he was a special teams guy, right? So it's interesting to see him out there. And, obviously, even though he's young in his experience playing on the field on defense, he's definitely a veteran in this group of cornerbacks because Trayvon Diggs is the lead dog and he's a first year player, just out of his rookie season. So
right.
And then you've got two rookies in Mosher Wright and Joseph who are the number basically 3 and 4 cornerbacks. So I mean in a league in a year where there's not a lot of veteran presence, I mean he's at least has some experience and it's kind of showing up a little bit. But we got to talk about Anthony Brown.
Yes, let's do this because this is the point that I think we disagree the most about.
Well, I think what's surprising to me is that he's been playing well out here. Like, I mean, I don't know that it's surprising because I think we've seen him play well in streaks before, but he's always been kind of streaky, and last year, he was dealing with a rib injury.
I almost throw that season away from me.
It really is kind of a tough season.
Scheme change, rib injury, playing in the outside, it was a bad year for him.
I think he's been a real surprise out here. I think he took a lot of the talk in the offseason to heart. I think he realizes that he's been mostly written off and that folks are putting Joseph in as the starter and Mosher Wright they're talking about two rookie corners and they're not talking about Brown. And I think that he's played really good football out here so far. I don't know that means I'm endorsing him to be cornerback number 2, but we need a lot of good cornerbacks.
You need depth, especially in a 17-game schedule. You're going to need 5 corners that you feel good about.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I guess the most exciting thing about all of this at camp so far. I mean, I think just versus expectation, right? We know Dak's going to be good. We know the offense is going to be good. Randy Gregory has been a joy to watch just simply because what the potential of that could be. But outside of those things, the thing that has been the most, through 3 or 4 of these practices, the thing that has been the most surprising to me is that coverage in general by the cornerbacks has been pretty good. And it's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's 4 and 5 guys who have shown the ability to play pretty good in coverage in a way that, and look, we everyone had their excuse for what happened last year, right? We talked about the injury with Brown. We talked about the scheme change for a lot of these guys. We talked about a lot of different things. A lot of these guys have played well at different points in their career. And we hope that a couple of them would show up and show a good side of that. So far, I would say 4 or 5 of these guys look like they're in shape to have not physically just shape, but overall in shape to have a pretty good season. And if that's the case, we can have an argument about who's cornerback 2, but if they've got 5 average corners or above average in the NFL, and then Trayvon Diggs, that's something to deal with. That makes life's harder for offenses because they can't run down these cornerbacks.
Again, if the Cowboys want to accomplish their goals that they have set for them, it's going to be a 20, 21, 22-week season, right? Over the course of 22 weeks, you're going to use more than 3 corners. That's on your nickel defense, right? You're going to need 5, 6 guys that you feel really good about. So having Anthony Brown play well, having Maurice Kennedy step up, having Kelvin Joseph show that he belongs, all great signs for the Cowboys. We're going to touch on the offense, Landon, in just a second, but just a couple really, really quick guys people have been asking about. These could be like a 15-second, description of what you've seen over the 3 days. Quinton Bohanna, the defensive tackle, 6th-round pick.
That dude is so nimble on his feet for his size. It's crazy. I think I saw, I don't know if it was him that knocked down a pass, but I've seen him getting close several different times. I think I saw him knock down a pass. Again, they were on the far field, so it was hard to tell the difference.
No, Brent Urban and Justin Hamilton both got one today.
Then it was Hamilton. Then it was Hamilton because that's the other thing I would say is that what I've seen a lot of is Bohanna and Hamilton as a 2-man defensive line, and then just kind of occupying blockers, and then
basically 3 gaps, right?
Yeah, and then basically them sending blitzers like on the outside, passers just one drop. And so Bohanna, I've noticed. We haven't had pads yet, so that's when we're really going to notice Bohanna. But I have noticed in the way that he moves, it's very twinkle toe-ish. It's like
the opposite of Don Terry Poe last year.
It's Dancing Barrett. Yes, it's not. He's not cemented into the ground. They're almost too dancey. I almost kind of want to see Bohanna, get into the ground and push guys back a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, we saw that on film when he was at Kentucky, right? Like he likes to show how athletic he is for a 330-pound guy. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that needs a little bit of work. Jabril Cox.
I haven't noticed him a ton.
It's probably tough without the pads too. Like I think he's probably one of these guys. Once we get in the pads, we see more backs on backers. I think he'll be okay.
And to be honest, he's running with the third team. And
there's so many linebackers.
Yeah, well, and so what's happening is that a lot of these reps are happening at the same time, like defensive DL on versus OL on one side, and then 7-on-7 on the other side. And so honestly, when it's the third teamers, I'm trying to focus on the first team offensive and defensive line, which on the other side of the field. So I know, but I've actually made a concerted effort to try to notice him on a couple of different reps.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, he was around the ball when the tackle was made. It's not that he's played bad. It's just I haven't noticed anything specifically that stands out.
All right. We'll maybe try to get some info and some nuggets from people that have been studying the film on how Jabril Cox has looked at practice so far later in the week. Want to take one more quick break to tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your first box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, let's talk about the offense really quickly. Monday was the Dalton Schultz day. Just showed off in all the practices. Looked fantastic. Tuesday appeared to be a Blake Jarwin day, right? He seemed like he dominated practice. What did you see from Blake Jarwin in this one?
Yeah, I mean, old Blake Jarwin, right? Just like
old Blake Jarwin.
Very old Blake Jarwin. Just very smooth in his routes, getting in and out of his breaks, soft hands. Just finding ways to get open. And it was a similar situation in practice today where Jarwin, caught. I think he caught a pass and then he caught another pass. Like Dak found him. Dak found him in a situation that he liked, and then just kept going at it. And I've seen a couple of times, and I love that they're doing that. They're attacking weakness, and that they're not, when they find some mismatch, that they're hitting it until you make them stop. So I think that's going to obviously pay dividends. So yeah, Jarwin looks fantastic. He looks big. He is big. He's a huge tight end that's fairly athletic for his size. So. Yeah, I think he's really athletic. I mean, especially he looks a lot bigger than he did last year. I don't know if he's been upper body. Yeah, I think maybe he's put some muscle on. So that's good. And we'll see how his blocking is. I mean, that's obviously going to come out in the wash, starting tomorrow. And we should also mention, for the people that are wondering, well, what happened with Dalton Schultz today? Like Blake Jarwin made 2 really nice catches right in a row, and then a couple plays later, Dalton Schultz comes in and makes a catch. They're going to use both these guys. They're going to use them depending on the situations. I think they're going to try to keep both of these guys fresh. I don't think please correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think the goal is to have one of these guys play 70 snaps and the other play 10. I don't think that's the goal here. I think, I would say even without 12 personnel, they should be rotating who's playing 11 personnel. Yeah, and I think they should. I mean, that's clearly Schultz has earned a spot, and Jarwin. It'll help Jarwin his coming back from his injury. So we're gonna finish the show with this. I want the everyday CeeDee Lamb update. How did he look today? I saw the touchdown that he had over Reggie Robinson. It sounds like Hard Knocks is gonna make that a part of their show because there was a long discussion between CeeDee Lamb and Reggie Robinson after that play as to whether it was pass interference or not. But how did CeeDee Lamb look today? I mean, well, first off, we got to talk about Michael Gallup too, but CeeDee Lamb looked, he's doing Dez things at times.
I was going to say,
I mean,
you were at practice during the early Dez years, like 2011, 2012.
I was fully around for Dez things. I mean, I witnessed lots of Dez things, and he's not doing it at the frequency that Dez was then, but he's doing them, and that's pretty amazing. Like, they're called Dez things for a reason. Not very many people can do them. No. You don't see Cooper doing Dez things. Like just incredible acrobatic catches.
Right?
Say what again?
It doesn't mean that Amari is a lesser receiver than Dez. It's just like the highlight, plays in practice that just catch everybody's breath. Like those are the things that CD is starting to do on a consistent basis.
It's like somebody said, these are world-class athletes. And then to see somebody who amongst a group of world-class athletes do something like that, it's like, wow. Yes. Yeah, that's why you come. We got to talk about Gallup going over the fence. That was terrifying. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen this, the
right
footage of this
Tim
yet.
Galashaw and Clarence Hill. I saw the video just before we got on. Yep.
I mean, it was like, we were watching from the stands and we were excited because it was a big. They were practicing Hail Marys and they he didn't quite get in bounds, I think, or he was just pushed out of bounds, then suddenly you watch him and he's just like right, and it was just I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Have you ever those fences have always been there, so I don't know if that's the first time.
Practice a Hail Mary though before.
You know what? I don't know that I have, but at the same time, they're practicing a level of situational stuff that I don't know that I've ever seen Garrett even practice. And Garrett loves situational practice stuff, but like the entirety of their 11 on 11 team games or mini games, I think they call them or whatever. All of them almost have been all situational. So, I mean, they're clearly putting an emphasis on, okay, hey, I want you guys to be not just playing a game with no clocks and no, and just downs. I want you guys to be playing football like you're in a specific situation, because there's no point in any NFL game where you aren't playing in a specific situation. Right. So I think it's smart.
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when the pads aren't on. Like, this is the time to work on situational things,
mental stuff. There's lots of work on spacing and mental, reps and timing. Just because that's what you work on before you get pads on, right?
I agree. I think it's been really nice to see how McCarthy has run practice so far. Again, we've got pads coming on Wednesday. We've got a lot of padded practices coming up over the next week, right? The Cowboys have a preseason game on next Thursday. Football is finally back here, Landon. It's so much fun. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to support us on YouTube. You can follow Landon at McCoolBCB, and you're going to want to make sure you're doing that, as Landon is out at Cowboys camp every once in a while. I think he's going to take a couple of days off, correct?
I'm taking a 3-day vacation, but okay. If you definitely want to see me poolside, you should definitely still follow.
Yes. Follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you next time.